You are listening to the Earplug Podcast Network, a Fanboys Inc. production.
Can you dig it, sucker? Ooh, yeah! We boo you because you're both a couple of world-class international a-holes. Time to play the game.
Welcome to a special Wednesday night edition of the Faces and Heels podcast. You've got an ink slinger, an angry geek, and a rabid honey badger tonight, as we are going to have Ryan, the rabid honey badger Mooney, as our guest tonight. Lewis, that hat is phenomenal.
Oh, you like the hat? You better like this hat.
will.
When I was building I thought you made a mistake on his name when I was building the graphic. I was like, I don't know if my palette is that big to build a name like the Rabbit Honey Badger Ryan Mooney. I was like, that is way too long of a name. But it's
You
just
managed
amazing. I can't.
You managed
Yes,
it.
I know. It's just amazing. Now we're going to see him on the 29th at Wrestling Grind, and I can't wait to go. I'll wear this hat for you, and maybe. Would you want to introduce our guest?
Oh, I sure can. I just appreciate you
Yes,
wearing the Faces and Heels purple tonight. I like the way you kind of
you got it.
shoehorn that in there. That's nice.
You got that. You got it. All right. Now, our guest is backstage. So
Yeah, so let me just tell you something. We're in for a treat tonight because our guest is really intense, hard hitting, and we've already seen him tested against some major talent at the Pro Wrestling Grind, and we're gonna see another match coming up on April 29th. So we're gonna be talking more Pro Wrestling Grind, but we've got all the way from New Jersey, so not too far from us, a little south, but we got Ryan, the rabid honey badger Mooney.
Whoa! Hey, Ryan. How you doing?
What's going on, my friends? How are you tonight?
How are you?
I
I am good. And so I got a big question. When I was building the graphic, I looked at the name. I'm like, this is a long ass name.
Mm-hmm.
Where did it come from, and how did you get stuck with it?
Oh, you're asking the hard-hitting questions right off the bat. Huh? I love it. I love your journalistic enthusiasm. So basically, the way it worked was, I don't know if you know how much of my career you guys have followed so far, but I was trained and kind of bred under the Ring of Honor umbrella. Sorry, that was me. A notification for me. Work email. Stop it. Go away. I came up under that Ring of Honor banner, went through their school, started working on their shows very early on into my career. I think it was a little over a year that I, had my first Ring of Honor televised match. So it was very short, that I started, racking up some of these achievements and some of these accolades that typically it takes people a long time to get to, right? Typically people are more seasoned when they come across opportunities like that. But I had gotten to a point where, I was about 2 years into my tenure there. I felt like I was stagnating. The company had gone through 2 or 3 different changes in, management, the amount of people that were there at the time. Things were changing, and I found myself at the bottom of the totem pole where I was at. And I knew that I needed to reinvent myself. I just wasn't sure how to do it. So I started going to the drawing board. This was before COVID, mind you. So I had this fire lit under my butt of I'm going to go out there and I'm going to reinvent myself. I'm going to go on all these indies and I'm going to, come back to Ring of Honor when I'm ready and, give them something that they haven't seen before. And I was like, just thinking to myself, like, what is it about me that will stand out and that will resonate with people, and make them interested in my art and make them want to watch me. So I pulled, from deep inside myself, I thought about like, who am I? And the Rabid Honey Badger really came out of this mentality that like in wrestling, especially, people will always kind of sometimes inadvertently and sometimes on purpose. They'll try to put you down and try to minimize you. They'll try to make you seem small or make you seem insignificant, right? But I kind of realized that there's part of me in my regular life that is just very very adamant, very determined, very ruthless. Whatever I want, I'm going to go get it, and I'm not going to let anybody tell me no. So yeah, I am a smaller guy, you know what I mean? Maybe not the prototypical professional wrestler that people are used to, but I mean, goddamn, man, I'm an animalistic little bastard, and I'm going to go after anybody, no matter how big they are, no matter where they're from. I don't care what they've already achieved. I'm going to come at them and try and hurt them all the same. And I'll probably get hurt in the process too. But when you're rabid and you're hungry, you don't give a damn what anybody else thinks or what anybody else is willing to do. So that kind of is where it came from. It's just bringing out your inner animal that we all have inside of us. And that was mine, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is a great answer. A newest question that I like to that I like to ask is the first time that you walked out there and saw a fan holding up acknowledgement of you, holding up a sign, whether it was cheering you on or dissing you. How did that make you feel that a fan actually was, the fans were acknowledging you, that the fans knew of you and were, you know, acknowledging your presence? They were there to see you, that they held up a sign for you. How did that make you feel?
Oh man, I mean, it was one of the most surreal experiences that I've ever had in my entire life. And it's funny, I consider myself to have a good memory for certain things, like little moments in time. And then if you ask me, what I did yesterday, I couldn't tell you what the hell happened. So it's just funny how memory works and how fallible it can be sometimes. But I will never forget. It was very early on into my wrestling career. I think it was like the fourth match that I ever had. I was on this trip. I was going to Maryland with some of my Ring of Honor associates at the time. I was going with Cheeseburger, Rhett Titus, Shaheem Ali from the Coast to Coast tag team, a few other guys. And basically, we had this big, funny enough, we had this ROH All Stars match where it was like the ROH guys versus the guys who were from that home promotion in Maryland. And
Mhm.
funny enough, I was on the ROH team, even though I'd never wrestled for Ring of Honor. And Shaheem Ali, who was actually working for Ring of Honor at the time, was on the other team. I don't know why. It still baffles me to this day. But he was on that team. And, after we had won the match, I had gone backstage and some of the fans had trickled through into the backstage area. And I'll never forget, I had these two kids come up to me. They couldn't have been older than like 10, two brothers. And the kid comes up to me and asks me to like sign his hat. Right. And I'm just thinking to myself, like who am I? Like I'm nobody, you know what I mean? I'm just a regular guy, you know what I mean? I
Mhm.
have a regular life, like we all do. So the fact that like what I had done that night, something about what I contributed to that show or the work that I did resonated with those two kids enough to, hopefully inspire them to pursue their own dreams or pursue their own passions, whatever those may be. So to think that I was having a positive impact on somebody else's life, even if it was only a little bit, that was really humbling experience. And it's something I hold very near and dear to my heart still after all these years.
Cool. Awesome answer. Jack, your show. I'm giving you the floor.
So Ryan, first of all, thank you for being with us. We really appreciate your time and really appreciate your talent and your contribution to this art form, because I've only gotten to see you wrestle live twice,
Mhm.
but I'm embarrassed to admit it, but I'll just have to be totally transparent because I knew who Ryan Nova was because I remember, I don't know where I had seen it, but the Shinobi Shadow Squad, and you
Yep.
mentioned Cheeseburger. I know that you worked with Cheeseburger. Um,
Mhm.
So it's funny. I just didn't put 2 and 2 together when I saw you facing Alec Price at
That's
9.
4, Jack. That's 4. I
4.
thought you were a school teacher. Yeah,
What are you-
2 and 2 is 4. I thought you were a school teacher.
What are you talking about? Where'd you get 2 and 2 is 4?
2 plus 2 is 4. You're a school teacher. Don't embarrass yourself in front of our guest.
He's throwing random numbers out. He's had a few concussions, Ryan. Sorry, but
See, even Marcy says 2 and 2 is 4.
what are you talking about?
Ryan, I am totally apologizing about Jack right now. I mean, God.
Guys, let's not have an argument between friends on this show. I don't want to have to be a moderator and start pulling apart a brawl.
I know. I'm trying. Even Marcy says 2 plus 2 equals 4, Jack.
Yeah, well, hey, I'm not arguing. I'm not a math guy. I'm the art guy. That other side of my brain's not always fully functioning. But
Okay, well, continue.
let me bring it back to the relevant stuff we're talking about here. But I guess what I was going to get to is I just wanted to take it back a little bit because you got into some really interesting aspects of who you are and who you are in the ring. But for some of the listeners who maybe don't know as much about you, I just wanted to clarify, you haven't been doing this professionally for that long, right? It's been 5 years.
Yeah, 5 years last month, actually.
Nice. Yeah. And so I don't know if did you train with Cheeseburger? And I know you said you worked under the Ring of Honor umbrella, but I think that Vita Von Starr and Travis Huckabee were 2 people we'd spoken to who had worked with Cheeseburger in Philly. Were you training in Philly?
Yeah. So basically the way it worked is when I went to start training, it was around the time I was about to turn like 21 years old. It was 2016. It was in the summer. I was in college and I had started seeing Ring of Honor shows the year before in 2015. I went to Final Battle when they were at 2300 Arena. And I remember, the main event was AJ Styles versus Jay Lethal for the ROH World Championship. And to this day, still, I'll maintain one of the best professional wrestling matches I've ever seen in person or televised. There was just something about that whole show from top to bottom that really resonated with me. And it felt like the magic of professional wrestling was embedded in that show, like all over the card. And, I was with my friend and I was thinking like, I kind of want to see if I could do this. I mean, it was a passion of mine that I never grew out of, like I feel like everybody at one point in their life is a fan of professional wrestling. And I feel like somebody, most people, they kind of just move on to other things after a while. And then the rest of us who stay behind are the people that like go down the rabbit hole and usually never come out of it because it goes deep. So basically what I decided is I want to try this. So I was looking for schools, and the only school that was in the area that I was really interested in was the Ring of Honor Dojo at the time in Bristol, Pennsylvania, near Philadelphia. So it was run by Cheeseburger and Delirious, who you've probably also heard, staple of Ring of Honor. And then Will Ferrara too, who was also a Ring of Honor talent, who then took a backstage role later on. So eventually when Ring of Honor kind of moved headquarters to Baltimore and tried to start their own school, I stayed behind because I had a life here. And, I was in school, I was trying to build a career for myself. So I wasn't about to uproot my entire life to, go move to Baltimore. It just wasn't feasible for me. So Cheeseburger, and I'll give him a lot of credit for this, he's helped me out in a lot of ways, but one of the biggest things he ever contributed to my career was taking on the Ring of Honor Dojo, rebranding it as his own school, the Worldwide Dojo, and giving myself and giving all the people that were there a consistent place to continue to train and apply our craft. So if Cheeseburger hadn't have done that, I mean, I may not have made it to 5 years in wrestling because I was so new and I wasn't really ready to strike out on my own just yet. So that's one of the things I'm very grateful for. And I always try to impart on him just how thankful I am that he did do that for not just me, but for a lot of students.
Yeah, we've heard nothing but positive things about Cheeseburger. I mean, we've been really fortunate to have a lot of amazing talent, and particularly from the Pennsylvania area, the entire state, and guys like Facade and Danny Moe and Travis Huckabee, Vita Von Starr. I mean, the list goes on, and I would leave people out just because we've had the good fortune of talking to so many of them. But there's just nothing negative that I've ever heard about him. He's one of those guys who it just seems is universally liked and really extends himself to others the way you're explaining.
Yeah, I mean, as a person and as a human being, he's one of my best friends in the entire world, and he's had a profoundly positive impact on not just my life, but a lot of the people who have trained under him and just met him in wrestling. He's, there's a lot of great people in wrestling, a lot of good dudes, a lot of great men and women, people. He's one of the best, and I think the fact that not a lot of people you find will say a crossword about him really, further affirms that, confirms it. But if you're his best friend, if you're his friend and he knows you very well, he will always try to get under your skin and make you just absolutely lose your mind. And like, I'm a little bit of a hot tempered individual. Yeah. Right. You're pointing to Jack, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd assume there's always one friend that does that. But I'm a little bit of a hot tempered, hot headed guy. And that's partially where the rabid honey badger thing comes into play too. So Cheeseburger knows that, and he'll adamantly like go about his business by saying things that he knows are going to get me upset. So now I've been trying to kind of become a master of my emotions and just kind of like let it flow off my back like water. But easier said than done when you're, as pissed off as I am sometimes, right, about certain things.
What are you pointing at me for? I'm cool, calm as a cucumber.
I don't know.
Lord.
I gotta tell you, Marcy has actually got a comment, so I don't want to get Marcy mad at me because I think she's going to be attending her first pro wrestling grind event, much like Lewis.
I hope so, because Marcy wants my autograph. So she wants the Angry Geeks autograph. She wants Faces and Heels autograph. She wants Ryan's autograph. She's going to be busy. She wants nothing from you, Jack. Nothing at all.
Hey, I'm going to tell you something. She already owns some artwork for me, including an Usos piece and a Guardians of the Galaxy double page splash. So take that, Lewis. Stick that in your pocket.
Sweet.
Marcy says, I also didn't put together Ryan Nova and Ryan Mooney until I looked it up before tonight. You mentioned you rethought your character and presentation coincidentally around the time the pandemic started. How did that shutdown affect your plans?
Marcy, thank you for adding in the that question. I appreciate it. You'll be at Grind on 4/29. Awesome. Like, come say hi at my merch table. I always like talking to fans. But the way that happened, right? So I said, I came up with all these grand plans for how I was going to reinvent myself and come back with a bang. And then the pandemic happened, I think, a couple months after that. So it basically, it shut down not just my plans, it shut down everybody's plans, right? Because work went away, professional wrestling went away. For a while, I wasn't sure if it was going to come back. The situation was so uncertain and we had no idea where it was going to go. We were just like completely in the dark. That was such a scary time. I remember it very vividly. So one of the things that was a silver lining about that time, and I'm always trying to pick out the positives and the negatives because it's just kind of how I, want to live my life. And it helps me develop a healthier mentality and a healthier outlook on life in general, is I tried to see like, all right, like I'm stuck at home. I can't really wrestle right now. I can't work on my in-ring craft. What can I do? Because when wrestling does come back, hopefully, soon, at that time I was thinking, I want to be ready. I don't want to, sit at home and kind of waste away and just, slide backwards. So the first thing that I started doing was I really just threw myself into thinking of character work, character motivation. How did my character speak? How did my character walk to the ring? What would my character move around like in the ring? So I was able to still go to the school, the dojo, even though we weren't holding classes. I had a key and I was going every day and working out because the gyms were closed. And in between my workouts, I would cut promos in the back, like in front of a green screen. And I would just start thinking of, stories of, how my character was feeling about certain things that happened to me in my life. What were the feelings he was going through? He was experiencing anger, frustration, betrayal, all these things, feeling like, he was in the bright lights under this Ring of Honor banner, and then it was all taken away from him. So, what was he going to do? What was his story going to be? What was his story arc going to look like? So I started studying tape of like guys that their speaking patterns and their promos really connected with me and resonated with me. And I started modeling myself after them. And then when the time came where we were able to train again, I felt like I had found my voice for promos. And I still feel that way. I still feel like I'm growing and evolving all the time, and my promo game is getting better with each video that I cut. So that was kind of how the process went about for me. It was just kind of looking inward and seeing, what was this character going to look like when the time finally came to show the world.
Besides pro wrestling, did you use any other type of media to base your character on? Movies, comics, video games. Care to
Yeah.
elaborate?
Yeah. So I started looking towards, I'm a big comic book guy.
I knew it. I knew it. Okay.
Started to have been for a long time. And, superheroes was kind of my go-to thing. I've, recently started transitioning more into, comic books that are a little bit more grounded in realism and kind of tell like a little bit more like realistic stories. But one of the things immediately that I connected to comic book wise was the comic book adaptation of Wolverine from the X-Men. Because here's this guy, right? And I'm not talking about Hugh Jackman, this 6'2" beautiful Australian man, that the world was presented with. I'm talking about like the nitty gritty details of the character being somebody who, he's smaller than everybody else, right? Maybe he's not the best looking guy. You know what I mean? I don't consider myself to be ugly personally, but look, you put me and Hugh Jackman next to each other, and there's a distinct difference between the two of us. It's just a matter of fact. Genetics can be cruel sometimes. But the motivation of Wolverine and how he was like kind of this like tortured soul, and he had gone through a lot of these traumatic things in his own life, and they had left all these different scars and impressions on him. And if you think about it too, he had been somebody before. He had lived a previous life, and at some point had lost his memory and had to become somebody new. So I kind of took a little bit of motivation from that too. It's like, well, I was Ryan Nova before, and I was all these things. But in order to kind of evolve and take the next step in my career, I kind of have to forget about that and kind of start over from scratch. So it's almost like trying to force myself to have amnesia and kind of just, start over. And that was like one of the things that I really connected to was that character specifically. And I watched a lot of movies during quarantine. I feel like everybody started watching like Tiger King and all these things. But I started looking for like characters to connect with in like movies and television shows and stuff. I can't really think of anything off the top of my head right now, just because it's been a long time since I've like really watched a television show or like a movie. But yeah, hopefully that answers your question with like.
Oh, it did. I was kind of
Honey Badger.
As you were talking, and as you're moving your mannerisms, and as you were talking about training, I knew right away it was going to be Weapon X. And as you were explaining everything, I'm looking around what we call the geek layer, and the biggest. I have a statue over there, and I have one over there, but I can't reach off camera to grab it because I was going to pull it up right away when you said it, but I'll do it off camera. So I just knew right away because as you were moving around, your mannerisms were very much Logan. So I kind of figured that. Jack, question.
So just as a follow-up, I wonder if the color of your gear has any connection to Wolverine.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it definitely does. I had a few different iterations of gear before in different color schemes. Primarily, I had used like red as my primary color, incorporated gold, and then blue. That was all like under the Ring of Honor years. And then I decided, I was like trying to think, what would be a color that would stand out? Because there's so many colors that are, they're great and they look great. And that's why so many people use them. But I wanted to pick something that I thought would stand out more. So, I used the black base, and then I thought, well, like part of Wolverine's color scheme is yellow. And I was like, yellow looks good. It'll look good with black. It'll look really good if it has like a dirty, grimy aesthetic to it, which my gear has. And I just kind of thought like, yeah, I'm going to make that connection. I'm sure like some people will pick up on it, but I'll be able to take yellow. And it was a color that I wasn't seeing a lot of other places at the time when I got the gear made, which was, almost a couple years ago. And I said, I'm going to make yellow my color. I'm going to try and, work with it as long as I can. And then if I have to pivot to something else, maybe I will. So another one that I'm a fan of is, Wolverine also has a color scheme, orange, incorporated into his gear at some point, especially in the X-Men cartoon, X-Men Evolution, which I was a big fan of. So maybe at some point, if I decide it's time to switch things up, I might switch to like a more of an orange or something like that. Because I really like orange too, and I think that that's something that if I had to change, I would probably just go to that. My goal is every time I switch like to a new pair of gear, I want to pick a different color every single time. And then maybe eventually over time, after my wrestling career is over, I'll have exhausted every color in the rainbow wheel. So that's kind of my loose goal at that point. Is I'm a
All right.
completionist at heart. So,
So will we see the Weapon X helmet at one point?
oh God, I don't know. Probably not, because one of the
I know
things.
a bunch of cosplayers that will fabricate that some bitch for you. So I'm just saying.
Well, look, my mentality is currently I am a graduate school student who does not make a lot of money in the real world. So if some kind-hearted fan, some kind-hearted person wants to fashion together a piece of gear for me, I'll certainly wear it. I'll certainly honor your work efforts. But I don't really see myself wearing something like that. And the reason why is not because I don't like the look. It's because, so obviously my character is not, I didn't reinvent the wheel when I came up with it, right? It's very inspired, and it takes shades from a lot of other wrestlers over the years who were, smaller, more undersized guys that had to be scrappy and had to be really vicious to, win their matches. So one of the guys right now that takes the Wolverine and the Weapon X thing and uses it, Brian Cage, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
He uses kind of the Wolverine-esque gear, and he kind of has used the headpiece before. So I want my character, even though it's similar to what other people have done or what other people are currently doing, I want to take it in a separate direction than anybody else has taken it. So I want to kind of come up with some of my own unique aspects to how I present that kind of character to the wrestling world. And you can kind of even see that at times in my wrestling style. Because, even in my entrance, I try to emulate, animalistic behaviors. Like I do like a bear crawl, like when I get in the ring, like towards the turnbuckle before I do my pose on the top turnbuckle. Just little things like that. Things that other people aren't doing that set my character apart from theirs. So.
I completely get that. How did you come up with your move set?
So my moveset is just very much inspired by what my personal strengths and skills are in wrestling. I mean, they always say, highlight your strengths, hide your weaknesses, right? Work on your weaknesses and try and turn them into strengths, but nobody's perfect, right? So
Well,
I'm a
Jack
guy,
is.
well, yeah, except for both of you guys, right?
No, I'm not perfect. But you ask my other co-hosts, you ask my wife, they're going to tell you I'm not perfect at all. But
Uh,
Jack, you look up perfect in the dictionary, and there's Jack Purcell.
Oh man, that's a
So,
high standard to live up to. I think you just cursed him with something that he can never truly attain. That's messed up. You should be upset about that. But
so your move set.
my move set, yeah. So I have a martial arts background.
Oh,
I
okay.
did karate for about 7 years when I was younger in my teens, and I did achieve the first degree black belt level. I also dabble in Brazilian jiu-jitsu right
Ooh.
now. That's kind of something that have become really passionate about, and kind of got the bug for that, as well as a little bit of like Muay Thai stuff. So that's my background. So I've always wanted to incorporate that kind of stuff into my move set because I feel like it's stuff that I do well, and I have the experience to feel competent and confident using those skills and those kind of moves. I also really, rely heavily on speed because, I can, in a short burst, I can sprint across the room in a very fast manner. And I can, usually stay one step ahead of my opponents, especially the bigger ones who are a little bit more sluggish and have to be a little bit more calculated with their moves and their, movements. But basically, the way that I kind of came up with it was I just said to myself, like, all right, like, what am I good at? And, what are the stuff that, even if I could do it, can I do it better than the guys that can do it the best or the girls that can do it the best? Like if I learned to do a 630 senton off the top rope, could I do it better than like Ricochet? Probably not. So someone always told me, one of my trainers always told me, if you can't do something and do it better than somebody who's the best at it, you might want to try and find something that you can be the best at and really maximize that and optimize that to kind of stand out. So, I consider myself to be very technically savvy. It's one of the things that Cheeseburger really has helped me develop over the past 5 years. So I like to consider my moveset to be a hybrid style of martial arts influenced moves, speed related moves, a little bit of a reliance on athleticism, right? And then a little bit of technical prowess, and thrown in there as well, a little bit of scratching, a little bit of biting, because I wouldn't be a honey badger if I didn't, find a way to inch that in there somewhere.
Awesome. Jack, it's all yours. I'll be quiet for the rest of the time.
I love the superhero comic book adoration, because we're big on that around here, and I think it could make for a very interesting match. And I'm not trying to coerce any information out of you, because before we came on, I had a request for a dream match at Pro Wrestling Grind, but then I realized you've already had it. But Mike Skyros has a lot of Moon Knight and Venom influence in his ring gear, so we could have like a Wolverine against Moon Knight potentially, because I don't know who either of you are facing yet at the show. Because I was going to say to you, if I was dream booking this show and I had the chance to book you, because I think there's so many guys at the Grind that you would be incredible against. And I loved your match with Alec Price, and the match with Gary J was insanely brutal. But I would love to see you against Travis Huckabee, which I was going to throw out as like this great inventive match. But then I realized you guys just fought. You just beat him.
That's true. We wrestled for the Worldwide Dojo Captured Lightning series. But I'll tell you what, Travis Huckabee is just a complete technical surgeon in his, style when it comes to wrestling. And I would wrestle him 6 days to Sunday, every day of the week, if possible. So could we see that at Pro Wrestling Grind in the future? I certainly hope so. I would like to kind of run it back again, because I feel like we had really good chemistry and we brought the best out of each other. So I would love to see that personally. And I would love to lock horns with Travis, or, lock claws with him another time. So
yeah, Rip and Delmy might be listening right now. So just, throwing it out there if you guys haven't solidified stuff.
I haven't offered my services to Ryan yet, but I can make a quick phone call.
Yeah, please do. And if Rip and Delmy are both watching this, or one of them are watching this, I just want them to know, please, book all the matches that I want to have with all of your different roster members, because in my last match that I had for you guys, I killed myself against Gary J. So, I feel like I've earned a few brownie points, after that. So,
well, I will guarantee you sign with me and let me be your manager. I guarantee you will have green M&Ms in your own dressing room. It may be a little small room, but you'll have your own dressing room. A bag full of green M&Ms. We'll make sure all the other ones are out of there. Okay. Jack will be there as a personal chef. He'll be making the M&Ms. Yeah, I'll guarantee everything. Don't you worry about it. Everything will be guaranteed.
What's your specialty dish?
You don't want the spaghetti and meatballs. It's not all I got.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. It's an oldie, but it's a goodie. And
Jack makes the best glass of diet water you will ever have.
Love it. Also too, I'm trying to, slim down for bathing suit weather this year. So, diet water, that's what we're going to have to go with, because I can't be having any of those empty calories. And as long as you're getting me my dressing room accommodations, you won't be dissatisfied, because as a client, I am incredibly minimalist. All I really need is, a little cage for myself to sleep in, and, just put the green M&Ms through the sliding door. And
I could do that. I could do that. Perfect.
It's a deal.
I'll have my people fax you don't worry about it. The contract will be in the email. I'll fax you tonight.
Well, I always recommend Guinness, because it gives you strength too. So I might recommend at some point, probably not right before the match, because I don't know how that would work for you. But at some point, Guinness gives you strength. Maybe you work that into the regimen with the M&Ms, and we'll make it happen. But me cooking, I'd much rather order out for you and have you be satisfied, because you'll be looking to chop me up if you eat any of my cooking.
Well, that's right. So for both of our sakes, so that I don't go to jail or get put in the nearest zoo, that you don't end up dead. Let's just make sure that that doesn't happen. Let's just segue away from that part.
Let's do that. Let's do that. And you know, here's another thing that I don't know if you have IWTV, and I have to say, up until a few months ago, I didn't have it, but I've been going back and watching a lot of the indie shows that I wish I was able to get to, but haven't. And at the pro wrestling grind shows, I think the audience is pretty hot and pretty passionate about new performers who aren't the regulars. You know, like guys like Logan Black and Travis Huckabee and Perry Von Vicious, you know, are pretty regular. They've been at every show. Yeah. But when you came out, I don't want to in any way detract from your match with Alec Price, because it was awesome. And you guys did some amazing counters. It was great. But I think that the reaction you got after your latest match with Gary J was unmistakably insane. Like, you had totally won that crowd over.
Yeah. So far too, like, I really appreciate Pro Wrestling Grind is one of those places that I really consider to be like a home away from home, because I really can't thank Rip and Delmy enough for taking a chance on me when, you know, it's a big wrestling world, but there's only so many opportunities to go around, and not everybody out there is going to be willing to let you play in their sandbox. I feel like I'm somebody that has a lot to contribute. If people would just kind of give me a chance, when I'm given the chance to prove myself, I feel confident that I'll knock it out of the park every single time. And, you know, that's what Rip and Delmy did. And they put me in there with Alec Price, who is somebody who, you know, he's amazing. And I expect that the guy will probably, you know, if there's any justice in the world, he'll probably be signed sooner rather than later. But he was hot, like on the indies. He still is, but he was really hot. And they put me against him because they believed that we could make wrestling magic together. And we did. And I think that, you know, towards the end of that match, no one knew who I was going into that. But I think that people, like, it turned some heads, the Alec Price match, right? But then, like you were saying, the Gary J match, you know, the Alec Price thing, we were trying to see, like, okay, was that just like a lightning in the bottle kind of thing? I had to prove that it wasn't just like a fluke, or it wasn't just, you know, luck that happened. And then the stars aligned and gave me something great. With Gary J, I knew I was like, okay, like, take Alec Price, take that match completely off the table. I have to, you know, go out there and I have to be willing to do whatever it takes to show people what I bring to the table, the value that I bring to the table in a match and for a promotion. And we were talking about it, and I was just like, I feel like he's going to try and kill me, so I'm going to try and kill him. And we're both going to go out there and probably just try and kill each other. And that's exactly what happened. And then by the end, I was just like, I've been through a war, and I felt just phenomenal after that match was over. No matter how physically hurt my body was, I could hear the reaction from the crowd, and it was just complete elation. I was on cloud nine. Nobody could put me in a bad mood after that match was over.
Yeah, your focus was amazing, because I have to say, I was clenching up a few times at just, you know, how hard both of you guys were hitting. It wasn't just you getting hit. It was certainly that give and take that was happening throughout the match. But I just remember at one point, it looked like, you know, you were just kind of getting up, and he laid the loudest chop I've ever heard on your back. And I've heard some loud ones, but I was like, oh my God, like, that was just ridiculously hard. And that ring, and we talked to Delmy about this last week, that ring, and again, this is just from a fan perspective, and not that I know anything, but that ring, to me, as a fan, feels like it has very little give, even in the center.
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of, you know, like rings that they use in the Japanese wrestling promotions, because I think that's what Rip and Delmy are really trying to go for, is that kind of aesthetic and that kind of feel. So yeah, like, you know, obviously no wrestling ring really feels 100% great. I mean, we do have to be a little bit crazy to be throwing our bodies on that thing over and over and over again, just to make a little bit of art, for us to remember, you know, after we're done with it. But yeah, I mean, the thing that's great about wrestling, though, is that your adrenaline gets pumping so hard that when you're in the middle of a match, when you're in the middle of a war and you're firing on all cylinders and things are just clicking left and right, it's almost like you feel like you're invincible. So I felt really like pain I was in a lot of pain afterwards, but like during the match, the only thing I felt was just like, we're making absolute just wrestling magic right now. And I can't wait for that to hopefully go up on IWTV, because I really think that people are going to be surprised as to what he and I were able to do together.
Absolutely, because I mean, IWTV for me has been so incredible. Just to go back, and I actually was just reviewing your match with Alec, and I was there live, so it was great. I enjoyed the live experience more than watching it on TV. Yeah. But that was absolutely awesome, and I recommend any of our listeners who haven't watched it to please go. And I believe the latest Pro Wrestling Grind show is going up on IWTV next week. So anyone who hasn't,
I believe Delmy said that.
Yeah, so anyone who hasn't seen your match with Gary J, I'm telling you, a 100% must watch. In the same way I was saying, if you didn't see Alec Price against Mike Speedball Bailey at the Blitzkrieg show, you got to go see that too. It was one of the best matches I've ever seen in my life. Kinchi is funny. One of our listeners, Kinchi, we were just talking earlier. Kinchi's a good longtime friend of mine, and I was telling him about you being on tonight, and he said, "Hey, the honey badger's my spirit animal."
And that's just wonderful to hear. I mean, me too. I'm sure it was already obvious. But yeah, no, that's really awesome to hear. Everybody's spirit animal should be the honey badger, because it's just a great standard for all of us to live up to, right? No matter how hard life beats you down, no matter how many times it points a finger in your face, get up, grit your teeth, and just chomp on that finger.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Because we're going to get to this at the end too, but we should talk about some of your merch, because you've got a really cool t-shirt.
Jack, to be honest with you, that was my next thing. I was going to bring it up. I'm like, we always run out of time. We're never going to bring up merch. And I was just going to bring that up. So go ahead.
Well, first of all, I hope you bring some merch to the show. And you've got a really cool t-shirt. It has like a beware sign. I'm sure you know which one I'm referring to. Are you going to have shirts like that available at the Grind appearance?
I'm trying really hard to get someone to print those shirts for that show, because it's one of my favorite t-shirt designs I've ever had. I mean, granted, I've only had a few of them, but it's my top one right now. Chomp on that finger. That's a t-shirt. Hey, if I use that idea, I'll have to give you a royalty for that, right?
Yeah.
We don't want to give anything away. Don't worry about it. Contracts.
Gotcha. Of course. Yes. See, I'm glad you're handling all the money here. So thank you. But yeah,
the whole $2.90.
That's right. Yeah. I do have my t-shirt, my Rabid Honey Badger t-shirt, the first one that I had. I also have a Pro Wrestling Tee store up right now, for people to go and buy it online. And keep your money. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. You just know that I need it more than you do, right? That's why you're being so nice. I appreciate it. Is there an option? Is there a share screen option on this platform?
Yeah, there is. Yep, there is.
I was going to say, if you guys give me the option to share my screen, I can pull it up right now.
Yeah, you have it yourself. There should be share right on the bottom. You
share. Okay. Yep.
Yeah,
share
there you go.
Screen. All right. Let's see. Like to record. Okay. Hold on, guys. Let me just do this for 1 second here. Hopefully this will work. Share.
Yep, it should say Chrome tab, window, or...
It says Chrome has lost permission to capture your screen. To fix it, go to System Preferences. Let me see if I can just fix that real quick.
Sure.
I know we're live right now, but
while you're doing that, can I ask you a question that I think will be a softball, and then it won't distract you too much?
Sure.
So, how about other companies in the area? Because I feel like I know that you've been all over the country. It's not just a Northeast, tour for you. But are there any companies that you haven't wrestled for that you'd like to, like, say, again, we always talk about how the Northeast is just an embarrassment of riches of amazing promotions. Like, are there companies like Beyond or Blitzkrieg or Limitless or any other companies that you want to make sure that you add to your resume?
Yeah, and I've been talking to Rip about this too, because I'm obviously not from the Massachusetts area, so every time that I do come there, I would really like to um kind of make it more of like a tour, or at least like kind of like a double shot, or maybe like a 3 show loop. So one of the things I would really like to do is Blitzkrieg, definitely. I have a lot of friends that work there. They say that it is a wonderful time and it's just so much fun. I would also love to get up to Limitless, because there's just a plethora of amazing talent there that I would love to let's see, I would love to work with. Oh, did you guys pull it up, or did I pull it up?
I did.
Oh,
I
okay.
did.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're
See,
welcome.
this is what I'm
See,
paying.
I'm a good manager. I take care of my clients.
This is what I'm paying you for. I appreciate it. Yeah. So this is my new shirt. It says, "Beware." This is Honey Badger territory. And this is my favorite shirt that I've gotten recently. Cheeseburger used the same artist for his world famous CB design, which is amazing. But the inspiration behind that, obviously, is it looks like a beware of dog sign, and the whole purpose of it is just to tell people that no matter where I go, I don't care whose house it is, I don't care whose home promotion it is. Every promotion I go to from now on is officially going to become Honey Badger territory.
Nice.
Now please keep in mind this shirt only comes in color black. Okay, so you can't get white, you can't get red. It only comes in color black. But you can get a basic unisex. You can get a ladies now. This will look really good on you, ladies. So make sure you go there. U sizes, long sleeve T-shirts. You can get them all. So make sure you go to prowrestlingtees.com and pick one up. And they're all comes in all different shape sizes, but not different colors.
That's
And
right.
if we go, that's right, prowrestlingtees.com. And we also have this T-shirt too for sale. It's
Yeah,
loaded.
this is my first one.
Ah, hey, recognize those claw marks.
Yep. Yeah, that's my first one that I got done for this new version of myself, this new iteration, and I'm really happy with how that one came out too.
Nice. Well,
And
you were
this one
talking
only comes in black.
you were talking about you doing a 3-stop tour, and just something to throw out there. Beyond runs on Thursday nights. The Grind often runs on Friday nights. A lot of time Blitzkrieg runs on Saturday, like they are this weekend in Northampton at the 3-County Fair. I bet you could make that happen.
Yeah, and that's kind of like something I was thinking of on the same line. If you have a link, you might be able to drop it in the chat. Yeah.
I can do it.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, no.
Don't worry, you'll get the bill.
I was able. Yeah. You have your people call my people as soon as I get some people. Okay.
I am your people.
You are my people. All right. Well, then send an email to yourself then to remind you.
Done. Done.
Thank you. Yeah,
You're
but
welcome.
what you were saying makes perfect sense to me. I was fortunate enough to work Beyond one time last year for Uncharted Territory. But Drew has since, obviously opened up the Wrestling Open initiative, which has been it's exploded and it's become widely popular. So in the future, I would really like to, hit Wrestling Open on Thursday, Pro Wrestling Grind on Friday, and then, cap it off with some other show on Saturday, whether it's Blitzkrieg, Limitless, Let's Wrestle, I think, is another one that runs over there. That's really good. So yeah, I would love to do that.
Well, I'll make sure I talk loudly, because I'm going to the Beyond show tomorrow night. So I'll just kind of start randomly yelling about rabid honey badgers, and we'll see what happens.
That's right. Just start going around scratching people, biting people, make sure you get real animated, and, maybe drink a little bit beforehand. It makes it easier that way.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take that advice. I'll do that. So here's a question. I don't know if it's a sensitive subject, so bear with me, and I apologize ahead of time if it is, because I know things are wacky right now. But given your history, how do you feel about the Tony Khan purchase of not of AEW, but of Ring of Honor? And do you see that ever being an opportunity for you to kind of circle back around to Ring of Honor?
Yeah, I mean, I think for a lot of people, there's probably pros and cons to every situation or every acquisition in wrestling, right? I mean, one of the biggest things that people said about, like WCW being absorbed by WWE is that an alternative went away, right? That everyone really liked.
Mm.
But like I said, I always try to see the positives in what's going on in the wrestling world. And I'm always confident that no matter what happens, I feel like I'm a versatile person. I feel like I'm somebody that can adapt. So with Ring of Honor, I hadn't been working with them throughout most of the fall anyway. And I had pros and cons. I see what you did there. That's a good one. That's very clever. But I had, kind of ended my contract with them before the news even came out that Ring of Honor was going away. So, I had kind of already separated in my mind from them. And it didn't mean that I lost any love for the promotion or the people that were there. It just meant that for me, it was kind of time to go back to the drawing board again. It was just swinging back to be, that time again. So I've really felt for all the people that left, or not the people that left, but the people that unfortunately were let go. A lot of whom were my friends, people who invested so much time and energy into that product and had been so loyal to Ring of Honor. So the idea that Ring of Honor was going to go away and maybe never come back, it made me sad on a personal level, but I was also very sad for my friends who intended to stick around and to make many more memories and many more moments in that company for years to come. So Tony Khan's obviously a big wrestling fan, right? You can tell he's very passionate about wrestling. That's something that you can never argue when you're talking about him and you're talking about AEW and what he's done with it. So the fact that he came along and kind of, scooped up Ring of Honor and is now turning it into his own product. I mean, I think that there's only positive things to be said about that overall, despite whatever your personal feelings are for the original Ring of Honor, because it now keeps another alternative for, maybe some of the people who are working in AEW who aren't getting time on Dynamite or Dark or any of the YouTube shows. Maybe they will trickle over there and, maybe carve out a little piece of the pie for themselves. I will say I am never opposed to working for any company that I, consider to be legitimate and, practicing good business. So I'm open to it. That door for me is always open. So who knows what'll happen, right? We've talked about all of these things have happened in the past, like year and a half, 2 years in wrestling that we never thought were even possible, right? With all this forbidden door stuff, all these different companies working together, other companies acknowledging the existence of other companies in the first place. So, what I'll say is, I might not have any concrete plans at the moment, but you never know what's going to happen or what could shake out before the end of the year. Life is unpredictable.
I could say one thing about Tony Khan. I've been to 2 AEW live shows,
Mhm.
and I've never been to a big company show. I've been to many WWF, many WWE shows, but
Mhm.
I've been to a few WCW shows, but never have I been to one of those shows where the owner of the company or a CEO of the company came out and not only thanked the crowd, but thanked the ring hands
Mhm.
and thanked the camera crew and just like thank the guy sweeping the floor like
Yeah.
Tony Khan does. I was blown away. The
Mhm.
first time I went, I was like, okay, well, maybe this is just whatever. The second time I went, he did the same thing.
Yeah.
I was like, this guy is all class. I couldn't believe he did that. He was
Mhm.
like, I want everyone to give, this is John. He sweeps the floor. Please give him a round of applause. I'm like, holy cow. This guy is like, cool. It just blew me away because I never saw Vince McMahon do that, and
Yeah,
I never saw Ted Turner or Eric Bischoff do that.
sure.
It was just like, or Bill Watts. I was like, holy
Mhm.
cow, it just blew me away.
I think that's really cool too, because one of the things that is not really talked about enough in the wrestling world is just how many people it takes to put on a show, right? Obviously, the fans, I'm not going to cast blame on anybody because they
Mhm.
only really see what's in front of them. They see the product, the finalized product. But unless you're, kind of like really like part of the business or kind of smartened up to some of the stuff that goes on in the business, you don't really realize just how many people are an integral part of making a show just happen and go smoothly. One of the things I'm very grateful for is, when I was under that Ring of Honor umbrella, I spent a lot of time doing ring crew, you know, tearing rings down, setting them up, traveling 3 hours to the next town, and then sleeping for an hour in a hotel room before getting up and doing the whole thing again, setting up the day of the show, and then having to wrestle the dark match afterwards when you're dead tired and you don't want to do anything but sit down and take a nap. There are so many people in AEW, in front of the camera who are friends of mine that I want to succeed and I want to see do well. And there are so many people behind the scenes that I know from my days in Ring of Honor that I know contribute so much, and that those shows do not happen unless those people are there. So I want to say that every single person who contributes to those wrestling shows is an important part of it and should be given appropriate credit for it. So that what you just said to me is something I didn't even know was going on.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that right there, to me, that's an amazing thing to hear. I love it.
Yeah, it just totally blew me away. And I told Jack, I'm like, immediately that Thursday morning, Thursday after I text Jack, I'm like, you'll never believe what Tony Khan did.
Mhm.
And especially and the ring announcer, also like what they do for their referees is just incredible. They announce their referees, they get the crowd cheering their referee. It's just it's a total different atmosphere in AEW taping opposed to a WWE taping. Totally different. The
Yeah.
show is it's just they they treat the talent different. They treat the fans different. It's just totally it's mind blowing.
It's
Absolutely mind blowing.
that real alternative to the
Yeah.
mainstream, stuff that's going on over there on the other side of things. And like I said, at the end of the day, obviously, I'm personally invested in my own journey and kind of where my
Oh
own
yeah,
wrestling
absolutely.
takes me, right? And I would love to play in all these different sandboxes. But as a fan of professional wrestling, first and foremost, which is what I was before I started doing any of this, and I'll always be that no matter what happens. It's not something I'm ashamed of, or I think anybody should be ashamed of. And just to see that there's an alternative out there that people can gravitate towards to feel at home. And, if they feel like they've been alienated by a different product, or they feel like the other product doesn't resonate with them anymore, to see that that alternative exists for people out there and brings people together, brings communities together. That's something I don't see how you could ever find fault with that or find bad things about that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Jack,
100%. So I'm
last
hoping that if you have a moment that
Mhm.
when we go off the air, you can hang out so I can give you a proper goodbye just to thank you for being here.
Sure.
But I wanted to leave our listeners with two things. One is, can you tell us, I don't know how you set your goals, but is there a goal for you in 2022? And the
Mhm.
second part is, if you had any other appearances coming up that you could talk about so that our listeners could make sure they come see you.
Mhm. Yeah. So that first one is let me tackle the second question first because that's a little bit easier to do. The second question is, what do I have coming up right now? Obviously, you can see me Pro Wrestling Grind, in Massachusetts on April 29th. I hope everybody can make it out there if they're interested in coming, or watch it on IWTV afterwards and, just support the product. But right now, I'm finishing my degree in graduate school, and that's taking up a lot of my time. I'm finishing in the next 3 weeks, so I'm still trying to make some moves to make some things happen. Oh, thank you. I can't wait to meet you at the show if I haven't met you already. Come by and say hi, please. But I'm trying to square away, more relationships with some other independent promotions right now, to make some things materialize towards the end of the year, towards the summertime. So right now, April for the most part, it's a little bit dry. May, maybe some things will happen kind of last minute, but right now things are a little bit dry there too. So it's just kind of prioritizing, what's got to be most important first and foremost, because I've been working on this for like 3 years, finishing these degrees and this education. So I need to kind of see that chapter closed before I can really throw myself into the wrestling thing full time again. Thank you. I appreciate the support. The last question is my goals. So my, goal overall, I think for the end of the year, my ideal goal would be I would love to see myself come back to some kind of television product at some sort. There's so many different options, different platforms to work on, whether it's television, YouTube, all of these things. You've got, AEW, they've got a million different shows going on now, right? The new Ring of Honor initiative, Impact Wrestling, MLW, New Japan Strong stateside. So ideally, I would like to try and make my way back to television again, because I think that I think people would really be interested in seeing what I'm up to now on a bigger stage. So if I could have it ideal, it would be that. But my overall goal in wrestling, just in general now, with what my mindset is like, is I just want to create a body of work that I can look back on when I'm done with this and just say, like, wow, I am really proud of what I was able to achieve, the moments that I was able to make with myself, my friends. I took a chance on myself, and I don't regret it for a single second. That's what I want to be able to say when it's all said and done. And, I want to, someday if I have a family or a kid or something like that, I want to be able to like point that to them and be like, look what daddy was able to do. Like if I can do that, and I'm just a regular guy, you could do anything. Same thing with anybody else out there who watches wrestling. Like if I can do this, if I can chase my dreams and have some of these amazing moments I've been able to have, if you're thinking about pursuing a dream and you're hesitant or you're not sure about it, I promise you that if you take a chance on yourself, no matter what the outcome is, you will never, ever have to look back and wonder what could have been. Because that's the way I feel. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, that's awesome, because there's nothing worse than regret. So it's awesome that you're not going to ever have a taste of that. And we really appreciate you, your art, and your time. So thank you for being here, because it's been awesome talking to you. And I know that a lot of our listeners, Kinchi, inspiring brother, I love it. So we got some capital letters there. These guys,
all capital letters. That's all we do here is caps, all caps.
Unfortunately, we're out of time. Jack, first I want to apologize for taking over the show tonight. I did a lot of talking and you didn't get anything. So I want to apologize, brother. I'm sorry. I really broke character and format tonight. I'm sorry. I want to apologize. But please tell everyone where they can find a Patreon and get some original artwork from you.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan's not the only guy who likes comic books. Your boy here is on Patreon. All of my artwork is there in its entirety. I don't really post a lot of my artwork, entire pieces anymore on social media. There's a cool new Batman sketch cover that I just posted up there that's going to be available at Free Comic Book Day at Alternate Universe. We'll talk more about that. But if you go on patreon.com, just look up Jack Purcell. It's like the sneaker, easy to remember. Check it out. If you like what you see, give a little support on there. There's some pretty cool little rewards you can get to that are fun. A lot of wrestling, a lot of comic book related artwork. But you can find us at Faces and Heels on Facebook, Faces and Heels Podcast on Instagram. I am at Jack Purcell Inc. INK on Facebook, Instagram. I'm trolling on Twitter at Jack Purcell 38 and just trying to keep it quiet over there. And then we got this loud guy over here.
You can find me each and every Monday. Yep. What? Huh?
That guy.
You can find me. You can find me each and every Monday night with that Wonder Woman, Jamie Dolan, on the Angry Geek Show as we live stream with people from Hollywood, the comic book land, and a cosplayer once in a while. Or you can find me every Tuesday night with my brother from another mother, the tag team partner like no other, the one and only ink-slinging Jack Purcell, as we bring the best of professional wrestling, the best of indie pro wrestling, like this cat right down here, every Tuesday night or sometimes Wednesday night, depends. And you can find us on the Earplug Podcast Network, Greenfield Public Access Television, South Hadley Public Access Television, Southbridge Public Access Television, and Sturbridge. You can find both my shows, Faces and Heels and Angry Geeks. We will see you guys next week, so please stay classy, stay safe, and see you later, San Diego.
This has been an Earplug Podcast presentation, found on earplugpod-cast.com, iTunes, SoundCloud, and wherever your favorite podcasts are found.